This is a comfortable, wider than standard armchair, which is very square in shape, and there's a good reason for all of these points. So let's have a look and talk you through it. It's made by Thomas Butler of Catherine Street, and he is one of the early makers of metamorphic and campaign furniture in London. And the reason why it is so square is because it folds out to make a bed. So on the sides here, we've got two holes on either side. These would have had posts, which would have then taken a hinged arch to turn it into a half tester bed. As is common with this form of bed, more often than not, the posts are lost. They're not needed later in life by whoever has owned the chair bed. They're put aside, they're lost, they separate company from the chair bed. So let's see how it all comes apart. Well, we'll take off the side cushions and the other cushions and fold it out. Now we can see the pine frame which folds out. It's got a lovely great big brass label here for Thomas Butler, which says 13 and 14 Catherine Street, Strand, London. And the fact that he put in 13 and 14 Catherine Street helps us to date it to after 1800. In 1800 he fell out with two of his foremen, Morgan and Sanders. They thought he was going to sell the business to them. He didn't. He sold it to Oxenham, and they set up in rivalry at 17 and 18 Catherine Street. So with neighbours who were making very, very similar furniture to him, it was important, of course, for him to make sure that he got a more precise address down. Earlier chair beds that we've had by Thomas Butler didn't mention a number of Catherine Street on the brass plaque. Right, so let's set it up. So the frame is hinged, so we'll lift it up. Fold it out. Screw the legs on. And you will have noticed that it's got another pair of hinged pine legs which have dropped into action as we unfold it. Now, they're quite interesting. It was a design fault with this chair, not just by Thomas Butler, but also his predecessors, who also made very, very similar pieces, Morgan and Sanders, Argyle's, Oxenham. They did consider that this was a weak point if you sat on it. And so we've had other versions of this bed that have had period, but not original, screw-in legs, but were also fitted at these points to take the extra weight. And they were probably only made 1, 2, 3 or 4 years afterwards, when obviously there had been a breakage, they'd taken it back or to another cabinet maker, and they'd got some extra legs made. But it doesn't seem that Butler or any of the other makers of this design actually learned from those mistakes and rectified it. Bit of a curiosity, but there you go. So that folds down like that, and we've got a bed. So we put the cushions on. And these cushions have all been made to button together so that in the middle of the night, if you're moving around, you don't end up losing a cushion on the side. And there you go, you've got a great guest bed, a very practical piece of furniture. But of course it was also meant for travel, so it packs down even further. So let's remove the cushions and show you that. So on the back of these two side panels, we've got some thumb bolts. And removing those will allow us to drop the side panels down. And there we go, it's packed down to really quite a neat size. Now you might expect the legs to be removable, but another feature of this design is that, and again, it's far more common for them to be missing for them to be present, there would have been a basket fitted underneath, made of linen or some other sort of material, and it would just hang below, and in it you would store perhaps your extra pair of feet, but also your bedding when you weren't using it, to keep it all together nice and neat. So to actually have the legs there with all of your bedding underneath, it doesn't actually take up any more space. So that's the reason for that. Now you can also use this as a bed without the sides on. So if we set this back up like this, you can see that these will slip off their hinges and can be removed. But of course when you're sleeping you don't want in the middle of the night for this to fall down on your head. So we'll just lift these two bars up here and they'll support it when you're sleeping, make sure it doesn't come down on you. So there you go, a very interesting practical design. It's around about 1805, 1810 in date, and Thomas Butler is really a very interesting maker. If you go to campaignfurniture.com, our website, and look under makers, you'll see that there's quite a lot of information written about him there. As well as his rivals and his foremen and other workers who set up in business after. And the design carried on after Butler finished in business. And in fact, this sofa here works to the same principles. If we remove this seat cushion, it'll fold out. We've got extra legs which we can add to it, and you've got a double bed, and for travel, the back and the sides are removable. So, a mahogany campaign chair bed, around about 1805, 1810 in date, made by Thomas Butler of Catherine Street, London.